Lovely. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm delighted to be here. Apparently, I'm the new Chief Exec of the MND Association. I've done nearly a year now, but I will take the new girl card for this conference, so thank you for that. The title of the presentation was really about coming into an organisation that's incredibly well established, over 40 years old, running well, has had great leadership from my predecessor, Sally Light, for 10 years before me. And actually then the new girl comes. And what does that mean for an organisation that's changing with different leadership? I think for most of the leaders in the room, the chief execs, the directors, people that are running our services, sometimes we get seen by our title. And actually, when I put this slide together, it was a real moment for me of actually, I really believe in authentic leadership and being your true whole self at work. So my true whole self that's me there with a terrible haircut, and I have no idea who the dog belonged to, but it wasn't ours. I don't know, we must have kidnapped it or something. That's me with my mum. I must have been about 4, I suppose. And my mum died when I was 14 years old, and she died of end-stage cancer. So not MND, but actually I saw someone lose themselves in a process, and my life, I guess, was shaped from being a 14-year-old without a mum and where that takes you. I left home at 17 and decided I wanted to be a nurse. I guess now I'm older, I can work out where that came from. But I absolutely loved it. And I kind of still describe myself as a nurse, but don't worry, I'd be dangerous out there now on the clinical floor, so I stay well away. I specialised in palliative care, end-of-life care, and I've worked in the charity sector for about 23, 24 years now. And that's me at the staff conference when I joined the MND Association. I think I was 7 weeks into post, and I needed to come along and speak to all the staff who were waiting in anticipation. And I have a partner, and I have kids, and I have a cat, and I'm a daughter. I'm all of those things. But actually, when you see me at work, most people see me as the chief exec. So the MND Association has been on a real growth journey, and I just wanted to kind of demonstrate some of that. So we actually grew during the COVID time. And when we look back at this, we've gone from an organisation that was just under £20 million in income, and we will probably close our books at the end of this year on about 32, around that mark. And actually, with that growth brings expectation, it brings challenge. I actually don't think I've worked in a charity where I haven't had to be lean or really think about transformation and efficiencies and how we do things in a different way. So to come in and know that we have some money in the bank, that we can really invest it well, is a bit of a gift, but it's also a bit of a challenge on the same vein. My finance director, I think, is getting nervous because I'm quite good at spending some of the money, but hopefully doing it in the right way. So in 1979, the association was set up by a group of people with MND, as lots of associations and groups are. They came together through a powerful cause because it was that united them. So from small beginnings, we're now just over 220 staff, 89 volunteer groups over the 3 nations, and 22 care centres across England, Wales and Northern Ireland. We have around 10,000 volunteers who work alongside us and actually who are our army along the way. When I wanted to try and pull some stats together for this presentation, there was my first challenge, because not a lot really existed. And I really wanted to think about, what have we done over the time? What's the impact? How do we demonstrate that? We've heard a lot about impact this morning, so thank you. My to-do list has now doubled within a couple of hours. So we are supporting more people with MND. We are awarding more grants to people, so more financial support, and we've seen that during the cost of living crisis, that people have really struggled across our country. They're really struggling with the day-to-day. They're really struggling with how they pay their electricity bills and how they support their families. And our grants value has increased. But also thinking about what Cathy said with our research portfolio, you know, we're hitting just under £21 million now for our own research portfolio, which feels enormous, exciting, but also gives us an opportunity. I guess one of the things we think about when we come into an organisation as leaders is, what's the culture? How do I, you know, start to absorb some of this? Everyone's looking at me as the chief exec. So what I felt was the commitment across the staff base, and it goes without saying the volunteer cohort as well, has been one of people absolutely loving their job. I've not met one single person who's grumbled about why they're there, who's totally motivated by the cause. And actually, as you will know, as well as I know, that's a leadership gift, that people are cause-driven, they're driven by their purpose and the purpose of the charity. They love their job, there was no doubt about that. But what I also saw was these massive silos in the organisation. An organisation that met very frequently as varying teams actually were almost surprised at some meetings as to what their colleagues were doing. And it took me a while to kind of really think that one through. And we're a very stable, very solid organisation. With stability and solidity, it sometimes means people can be quite set in what they're doing and their heads are down and they're delivering. And it felt to me like I was about to try and turn the Titanic, even just a little way. And when we're talking in a language of transformation and agility and speed and actually making good decisions quickly for people, sometimes that doesn't quite fit when you're trying to do that on the Titanic. So it was all about leadership in action. A very helpful colleague of mine sent me a book about your first 100 days as chief exec. I'd been a chief exec in a number of organisations before, so I kind of knew what I was coming into. I'd worked as a management consultant for the previous 5 years and had done lots of transformation in different charities. So I was very solid in my mind. I'm coming in here as the permanent chief exec to really lead this fabulous organisation, and I need to take some time. I need to not come in with an interim mindset. So I had a plan. I was going to speak to everyone, probably drink lots of tea, get myself around the country, listen to what people were telling me. I'd read lots of books, as we all do. I'd listened to the podcasts. I'd got my kind of plan in my brain. The organisation was clearly anticipating my arrival, some good, some bad, some nervous, I'm sure. And I was also taking over from some very big shoes. Well, actually, they were little because Sally was quite small, wasn't she? But some very big shoes of leadership that had given that real consistency and clarity for over 10 years. As soon as I arrived, I had loads of people asking me loads of things and lots of people saying, "Oh, we've been waiting for you because we just need to talk about this and we need you to decide on that." And I've got the books in one side of my brain and the reality in the other. And then as 2023 progressed and I was only 6-7 weeks in, we had a moment in the external landscape for our community that seemed to turn all of that on its head. And one of my colleagues who I brought in to actually help over that time, the amount of times he said to me, "You need to get your tin hat on and just get on with it." Okay, I'll try my best to do that. So we had a little bit of a storm in 2023. I'm talking like it's gone, but you know what I mean. It's kind of settling, I hope, as we speak. We, at the symposium last year, released some top-line data on one of the clinical trials that we were involved in. There was a level of promise with that release of data. There was a level of hope that was given to the MND community about what a potential treatment could look like. The anticipation was building from the community. The need is definitely there, so we saw it. But actually what we saw was a whole new level of engagement and focus. At this point, I'd just like to thank some of my colleagues in the room who were very kind at the end of a phone on numerous calls for me going, I don't know what to do, I can't do it, help me, because you've been here before. We had a community that were getting quite fractious about a seeming inability for us to move this forward. It actually wasn't in our gift to move the treatment forward because we were still awaiting the data and we were one part of a very, very big wheel that was turning. What it did was it threw the spotlight on the organisation in a way that none of us, I think, in the organisation that had been there a long time had ever experienced. We had a community that we were there to serve. We were being criticised because it looked like we weren't serving them. We were in the Titanic, which is huge, to mobilise quickly. And actually what we needed to do was to respond at speed, respond with pace and conviction, and make some really big decisions. The difficulty when you're doing that as a chief exec that had been in the organisation about 10 weeks by this time was really, really hard. What we learned was that moment actually destabilised our charity for about 4 months. It really sucked every bit of resource into that. What it showed me was our kind of planning wasn't there. When we were talking about strategy this morning, it was about a strategic mindset across the whole organisation. And actually that wasn't in existence, and it's something we're really working on. You talked earlier about making priorities like no other. You have to really, really decide what you're going to do as a charity, because actually doing everything is impossible, because actually it benefits no one. So our planning wasn't quite there. We kind of went into headless chicken mode at the start, but we got ourselves out of that. Our response was flawed because we were trying to be all things to all people. We wouldn't actually nail our sail to the mast and say, this is what we're going to do as an association, because we genuinely didn't know. And it was a moment for us, a real test of resilience and leadership. The amount of times I said to my social media team, I'm coming off Twitter, I can't do it, I can't cope with it anymore. And they talk me down, and you get really grounded about why you're here. So what did we learn in that time? Well, we learned as a very established organisation that we need to be much more decisive. We need to be quicker, and we need to be much more confident with what we're doing. And actually what it showed us was we didn't have a strategy for this. We didn't have a plan. We hadn't quite linked up what was coming from research, access to treatments, the regulatory process, and what that meant for people with MND. I talk about authentic leadership, so this is a very honest account of where I felt we were. But actually, we weren't quite ready, and the community had really felt that it was coming down the track, but for some reason, we weren't there where we needed to be with them. You need to really make sure that you've got the right people with the right skills in the right area. Lots of us were trying to do lots of things and actually not leaning on the experience. And when you come in as the new leader, it's really quite hard to understand where all your community are with you and who can lead on certain parts. We got really scared. I mean, we got really nervous at this point. We were taking a hammering on social media. My email inbox was just ridiculous. And, you know, we did laugh because there was one stage where I thought people might be outside my house, which I know is not funny because some of you guys have really had that level of passion in your associations. We made a comms plan and we had to stick to it. I didn't. I thought I'd go off-piste a bit, and that drove my comms team mad, and that was a massive lesson learned for me. But actually, through all of this, I learned the really important thing to do is to always be your authentic self. I work with compassion, I work with kindness. I'm not afraid to make really hard decisions, but actually I go back to slide 1. I'm always the nurse. I'm always there to understand what people really need from us. And actually the whole thing was a bit of a strange opportunity, but it really has helped me think about what's next for our organisation. So what does the next year involve? So spoiler alert for my team in the room. We need to really plan well. We need to really work on our strategy and talk about what does that mean. And actually, we need to stop being all things to all people. And we need to try and hone that down and think about where do we add value? Who do we partner with? Where do others lead in this space? And how do we work really well together with our partners around the table? We need to have some flexibility and some agility. We need to develop our leadership and really build that culture, because it's great having a strategy, but if your culture isn't geared to deliver and be with you, then that actually makes it really difficult. And for me, it was about always remembering that in every single decision and every moment, we are here for the MND community. And if I can't go to bed at night thinking I've made the right decision for that community, then I know I'm in the wrong job. And I think we all hold that dear at the association. And on a practical level, book the holidays. You need the break. You need to rely on your team. And remember that you have a fabulous community around you. Thank you. I'm still on Twitter, look. I'm still there. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Tanya. Thank you so much, Tanya. Okay, I invite our guests to have some questions, if you have any questions. Right here, and Gujin.
Thank you for your... Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to comment on your association, that you have excellent educational home page, and what is important is that you share it with the rest of the world, and we are one of the lucky ones to be able to translate these pages and information into Icelandic, not having to deal with all the heavy stuff. So I wanted to thank you for your excellent work.
Thank you very much. I take no credit for it whatsoever. The team are brilliant. And I think what we've seen is we have to remember what we do well and really work on how we demonstrate that impact. And actually being here today makes us realise we're part of a much bigger community where we need to share more and learn more from each other. So thank you.
Thank you. You had a question? We can't hear you.
There.
Oh. Susan Brumby from Australia. Tanya, I noticed on your graph that your association grew during COVID, and I was just wondering what you think that was down to, given that we were a world that shut down.
Yeah, thank you. Great question, and I've clearly missed it from my presentation. We had a really interesting moment. So we've had a number of rugby players who have been diagnosed with MND. And actually one of those players, Rob Burrow, and his friend Kevin Sinfield, have taken fundraising and profile raising to a whole new level. So Rob was diagnosed in 2019. So actually that has driven a huge amount of our growth. So we have seen the community galvanised like nothing that we've ever known. I mean, Kevin is doing a massive ultra marathon for us over these current 7 days. And actually what that did was pulled the whole MND community. It gave us national national publicity. It gave us a profile that it would cost you a fortune if you were to trying to buy it, through media. So actually the whole M&D community got behind us, and money came in because your marketing and your profile and your presence was there. So actually that's what drove the majority of the growth during that time. So we were really fortunate, and we have tried to get hold of that. There is still a lot more to go because we know the growth is still there, but it will plateau at some stage. Thank you.
Okay, we have to wrap this up. No? I mean, you're the boss, so. I actually do have to wrap this up, so I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Tanya, for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.